Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Hey, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast, where we share news and ideas that can help you scale your business. And speaking of scaling, this episode is brought to you by our Inner Circle Mastermind. This is a year-long program for a group of speakers, small group of speakers, who are interested in moving their income to the next level. The members of this group will meet with us several times per month to ensure that they're taking action and moving their business forward. And as the coach for this group, I'm leading you both in the group calls as well as your private quarterly sessions that you'll have with me. The people who are the rock stars coming out of our current groups are self-starters who are determined to do the things that it takes to really scale their business. So if you want to be kind of above average and you want to have a coach at your side, drop me a line to jane@speakerlauncher.com and I'll send over the details and the application.
Perfect.
So today we are talking sales and technology as it relates to selling. I want to make sure that we are able to translate to you the tools that are really going to help you move your business forward. And we've invited our guest expert today is Sam Richter. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, thanks so much, Jane. It's really an honor to be with everybody today.
Well, I'm excited to have you here, and I want to share with everyone your background because you have a really deep bio. So we're going to give you the Cliff Notes version here. Considered one of the world's foremost experts on sales intelligence and digital reputation management, best-selling author Sam Richter, CSP, delivers highly entertaining presentations to audiences worldwide. Sam has been featured in thousands of articles. He has won numerous awards, including the Gold Award at the International Film Festival and a Cody Award, which is like the Oscars of the software industry. Congratulations on those, Sam. That is so cool.
Thanks.
Sam serves on the board of directors for numerous technology companies. He's a member of the Business Journal's 40 Under 40 list and is a past finalist for Inc. Magazine's Entrepreneur of the Year. That is a massive feather in your cap. I love that one.
Oh, thanks.
In 2017, Sam was inducted into the Minnesota Speakers Hall of Fame. So this is a really interesting journey you have taken. So tell us the things that the bio didn't tell us.
Well, I started out my career in advertising. So I was an advertising writer, and basically as an introvert, I'm a rather severe introvert. My goal was to sit in a closet all day and write ad copy. Well, eventually I got promoted to become a creative director, and as a creative director, I had to go out and sell, and that kind of terrified me. Now, this was long before the internet, and so what I used to do is show up at people's companies, my prospects' companies, maybe 15 minutes, a half an hour before the meeting, and I would ask the receptionist, tell me about your boss, tell me about your competition. Are there any new things you've got going on? Just really engage in conversation. And then when I went in and met with the boss, I would kind of spit back, if you will, what I learned.
Right.
And there'd be a pause, and we'd really engage in a lot of conversation, deep conversation. But the cool thing was I didn't have to do a lot of talking. I just asked great questions based on what I had learned from the receptionist. Fast forward, a bunch of people started buying from me. People even said, wow, you're such a great conversationalist. But the reality is I never did a lot of talking. Fast forward a few more jobs, and this thing called Google came out. And I quickly realized that a lot of the stuff that I was asking the receptionist, I could learn through Google using some specific mathematical techniques, things called Boolean logic. And that kind of led to this journey of discovering the insides of search engines and building my own search engines and my own technologies and learning about the invisible web and really this whole concept of sales intelligence, of how to find information on other people, their companies, their prospects, what do they care about, so you can be highly relevant before you walk in the room. But it all really emanated from being an introvert. And I'd love to tell you that I had this perfect process laid out, to increase my sales, the reality was I just didn't want to talk to other people. So I figured if I asked good questions, it would work. And it kind of did, which then launched this whole crazy career.
Wow. That is really, I was wondering how you thought to even ask such good questions, but the truth is you just didn't want to be the one talking. So
Pretty
you
much,
thought,
yeah.
if I could get other people talking, then I wouldn't have to, be the one. That was brilliant. Really, really brilliant. And there's so many things about the search engines that leave me scratching my head. And I'm no doubt some of my audience is quite sophisticated. Others are likely just starting out and kind of trying to seek out information about the people that they are trying to sell to. Let's talk about just the power of knowing things about your prospect.
Well, I think if you start with the premise that people are amazingly passionate about one thing.
Themselves,
absolutely. And I'm not trying to say that to be flippant or rude, but we are. We're passionate about ourselves. And for those of folks who are listening today who grew up kind of BG, so what's BG? It's before Google, right?
Okay.
If you were in sales of any sort before Google, you used to take people out for 2-hour lunches. Now, why was that? Because your prospect knew nothing about you. And so they were willing to give a couple hours out of their day because they didn't know anything about you. Maybe they had seen your ad or gotten a referral, but they really didn't know anything about you. They were willing to give up 2 hours out of their day. Well, fast forward to today. Most people don't take 2-hour lunches. Most people don't even eat lunch anymore. Mm-hmm. And why is that? From a buyer's perspective, they've Googled us. They already know everything there is to know about us. So, for example, if you're an event planner, a CEO of a company looking to hire a speaker, a vice president of sales looking to hire a speaker, what's the likelihood that that person has Googled you prior to any meeting or phone call?
Right.
Probably 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen your video. They've read your bio. They think they know everything there is to know about you. I mean, they don't, obviously, but they think so.
Right.
So they're not going to give you 2 hours. They're going to give you 10 minutes.
Right.
So they have buyer's intelligence. So kind of the flip side is sales intelligence. Well, if they know about you, what do you know about them? And the challenge is you see, we know that we don't get 2 hours out anymore. We've got 10 minutes. And so we get a prospect on the phone or maybe even in person. We know we don't have a lot of time, so we launch into ourselves. Well, let me tell you about all the great things I've done for every people. Let me tell you about me. Here's my speaker bio. Here's my one sheet. And you know what? They don't care. What they really care about is themselves. And so how do we make sure we understand what's going on in the other person's world before we walk in the room? So for example, if you're a speaker and you've been invited to coffee because this CEO heard that you were great, and you start talking about how wonderful you are, you've helped so many companies with leadership, and boy, you're just an expert at leadership, and then the CEO says to you, I don't really care about that. In fact, that we just went through a merger and acquisition, so the reason I'm really here today is to talk about change. It's kind of embarrassing. How about if you went into that meeting and the first words out of your mouth are about the other person? Hey, Mrs. Johnson, before I launch in, first off, congratulations on that new merger and acquisition.
Right.
I can only imagine that your organization is going through a lot of change right now. It just completely changes the dialogue.
That is what we call sales intelligence.
Yes, exactly.
That is what you call sales intelligence. This is something that I'm just learning about, and I'm really excited for our listeners to hear about it as well. So professional speakers can really get more honed in on what if it's more of a filling a slot for a meeting. How can they use it in that way? Let's say it's not necessarily they want to hire the speaker to come in and affect some massive change.
Sure.
They want to be the opening speaker for a conference, and the opening speaker's job is to maybe set the tone for the meeting or something like that.
Well, there's a couple ways, and let me answer your question first, but I'll tell you, I'll kind of tee it up. The first way to use sales intelligence is to also find out where those opportunities are. Who is looking for a breakout speaker, an opening speaker. And we can talk about that in a second. To directly answer your question, some of the things you can talk about in these really, it's even tied into the prospecting, which we'll discuss in a second. How about if you're having that call with that meeting planner and you've already done a little bit of homework, you've already looked at their website, their speaker website. Let's say it's a big association conference. You already know who their keynote speaker is.
Mm-hmm.
You already know what their theme is. What if you were able to have that conversation and say, hey, I already know that you're having Marilyn Sherman as your keynote speaker. And, I know that Marilyn talks about, living life in the front row and really taking chances and taking risks and be out there. And let me tell you why my message can be a perfect complement to hers. Again, it just shows that you've done your homework. It shows that you've cared. And we're talking about something that the other person cares about, how to make their meeting awesome.
Yep, exactly. And I noticed you had talked about David Averin. We talked about, putting in the subject line of an email that you're trying to, for an event that you're trying to participate in. Putting their own subject line in the email is kind of using sales intelligence, wouldn't you
Absolutely.
say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many of us will put in a subject line, information on Sam Richter, a speaker, learn more, or my video, or again, talk about them. Hey, I know that this is going on, or congratulations,
right.
or, hey, I saw that your competitor is doing this. Make this subject line really jump out based on what the other person cares about.
Yeah. And if you could put Marilyn Sherman in the subject line,
absolutely,
who just happens to be a really good bud of both of ours, that would be even better, because then they're thinking, okay, wait, it makes them really understand that they need to open this email and not just turf it, which a lot of people probably do, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So you have this background not only in advertising and writing copy, which is so difficult for speakers to do, but you also know the back end of things and the technology. Let's talk about what prompted you to do something about this.
Well, in terms of building technologies and really leveraging technologies, first off, these technologies that have been put in front of us that we all use every day, Google and social media. I mean, as I like to say, the power of really good in technology is it's intuitive, right? I can fire up Google, I type in 2 words, stuff just shows up. And that's really the problem of really good technology, is that it's intuitive. I never learned the good stuff, and nobody really teaches the good stuff, or the kind of the inside secrets to find things. And the good news is it's not very hard, but most people don't really know it. And once you know it, it can really laser focus your prospecting and laser focus your ability to connect with other people.
We don't speak Boolean logic, most of us.
No, most of us don't. No.
Okay, so then what happened? You recognize that.
Yeah, and I started to give presentations about it. Even I was managing I was working for a PR firm, and I was in charge of the Microsoft account. And so, it was obviously technology related. This was when search engines were first coming out. And so I was asked, hey, can you build a presentation on how to use these things? And a lot of the basis of that, this was done back in, I'm going to guess about 1997, 1998. A lot of the basics are still the same. And so that just kind of led on to this whole track of teaching people how to find information and frankly, using it myself to grow my business. And then there's a number of technologies that I've developed, because as I go out and find a need, so there's a need to get information like news articles. I'm a big fan of news articles. Well, Google News is great, but most of us aren't calling on companies that they're going to, those companies are going to show up in Google News, but they will show up in local newspaper articles. So I built a search engine that gets all the local newspaper articles, makes it really easy, even automates Boolean, so you don't even have to know things like quotation marks and minus signs. And so, just over the years, I've continued to develop and build my own technologies when I see a need out there in the marketplace that isn't being met.
So the one that would be the most interesting to speakers, let's talk about that one. And where might someone go to find out about it?
Well, I've developed a search engine. It's called the Sales Intel Engine. And people can go to www.sellingintel, SELLING, Intel, INTEL.com, and read all the bullet points and all about it. Here's a thing I wanted to make available, because obviously I'm a big fan of speakers, and being one, and have lots of friends who are speakers. So, for folks who are listening today, they can get access to this for free. So they can just go to samrichter.com/speaker, one word, speaker. So samrichter.com/speaker, enter in their email address, and they can access the sales intel engine. And really what it does is it automates. What I've tried to build is an engine that automates a lot of the complex mathematical equations that I might use in Google. So I could sit here, Jane, and I could teach you fancy Boolean logic and how to prospect and things like that. To be blunt, the mathematical query would probably be about 30 words long. Let's say if I wanted to find decision makers at associations.
Right.
And so what I've done is with the sales intel engine is I've automated a lot of those searches. So you can really go in and just type in a word, say, hey, I'm looking for event managers in the healthcare industry, and it'll pull up a list of the event managers in the healthcare industry. Or I'm going to go meet with Widget Corporation today. How big are these guys? How many employees do they have? What's their revenue? Have they had any news articles? Any new accounts or awards they've won? And that's kind of what the Intel engine is really used or developed to do, is automate a lot of the fancy stuff, the sales intel that I would normally have to spend a few hours teaching you.
Right. And I would say that that's one of the biggest complaints that I get from my clients is the time that it takes, not just to build the list, but of course the research. What we're talking about goes way beyond list building and just sending out an email.
Yeah.
You're talking about gaining a competitive advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, in the sales intel engine, there's a button called prospecting. I can click on the prospecting button. I can go in and just type in a word. I'll type in a word, healthcare, and I'll click on the conferences. I'm actually going to add a year. I'm going to click on, I'll add 2019. So healthcare, I add and it says add a year field, add a year 2019. I click on conferences, and it pulled up all of the upcoming conferences in the healthcare industry for next year.
Wow, that is pretty beneficial.
Yeah. So you can go in and now I can go back into the engine, remove the word 2019, leave the word healthcare in, and click on Contact an Industry Association.
Wow.
And it will pull up all 5,590 healthcare associations from around the planet. Click on any of the buttons, and it pulls up their contact information. Again, assuming their contact information is available online, we'll find it for you. So those are the kinds of things we do with the sales intel engine. And like I said, it's automating Google searching that I could teach you how to do, but it would take you a couple hours to learn, and frankly, a few years to master.
I love this. This is a total game changer. Go to Sam Richter. Richter, by the way, is spelled RICHTER.com/speaker. Take advantage of your free subscription. And what's going to happen once the 30 days runs out, Sam?
Yeah, if people want, they can continue it, and if they use the coupon code SPEAKER, then they can get 50% off. So it's like $120 for the whole year.
Wow!
So if you can't get an ROI on that with one closed deal, right? You got a problem.
Exactly. So let's say that you use this intel to focus in on the conferences that you really want in the space that you want. And I typically will talk to my clients about really choosing 1, 2, or 3 target markets, not to try to be all things to all people, but to really say, let's go deep into one market. So let's say you start to hit all the healthcare conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got someone who's at a national healthcare association, and you've identified an actual person. Tell me what the power of this is for really getting to know a little bit more about that one person. How would I go about that within the search engine?
Sure. I would even take it out of the search engine sometimes. And at this point, I probably would. So if I know, let's pretend, Jane, that you're an event planner.
Okay.
I'm going to go in now. What I'm about to say is so obvious, and everyone will say, "Oh yeah, I do that all the time." But the reality is, they don't do it all the time.
Okay.
Before I pick up the phone and call you, I'm just going to go to your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
I'm going to learn a little bit about you. What am I looking for as a speaker? And that's the key. It's like most people listening obviously will say, "Yeah, well, I know how to go to somebody's LinkedIn profile." Great. Well, a couple things I'm going to look for. One, I see that, Jane, you've been a member of the National Speakers Association since 1991. Hey, guess what? I've been a member of the National Speakers Association for 10 years. We've got something in common. We probably know some of the same people. Oh, I see that you live in Canada. Guess what? I was born in Canada. I've got family members in Canada. We'll talk about that. Maybe where you've used to work, I've actually done speaking for that organization. So I can say, hey, call this person. Don't let me tell you I'm good. Call Julie Jones over at Acme Corporation. I know you guys used to work together, and she loves me. So those are the kinds of things that I'm going to. So it's not just. I think most people know. Hey, let's go look in LinkedIn. But what are we doing once we're in there? What are the kinds of things we're looking to find? Because again, this is all about building a relationship.
Right.
And here's something that if you just think about it logically for a second, it makes a lot of sense. So all the stuff that I'm sure many of the other people you've had on your show, and I'm sure what you teach, or I know what you teach. You got to have a great bio, a great video. You've got to be on LinkedIn. You got to be promoting on social media. You got to have content. Obviously, you've got to be a great speaker. You do all those things. But the reality, Jane, is you can do all of those things, and all that does is get you in the maybe pile.
Right.
None of those things ever gets you a booked gig. It just gets you in the maybe pile. What's the maybe pile? You're one of three. And guess what? Your other two competitors are just as good as you, and they're going to cost the same. So who's the person going to buy from? People buy from people who they like. People buy from people who they trust. And how do you get someone to like you? How do you get someone to trust you? Especially when you've only got 15 minutes on the phone to make an impression. Talk about them. Talk about the things they care about. Find out who they know that you might know. Those are the kinds of things that I teach. That's really what sales intelligence is all about. Now, Jane, I didn't make this stuff up. My favorite book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's all this is with a modern stamp on it. Well, Dale talked about that you've got to spend 2 hours asking questions. I talk about how you could spend 3 seconds in the sales intel engine or 3 minutes on Google and get that kind of information before you walk in the room.
Nice. I really love this. Tell us like some real life examples, either in speaking or outside of speaking, where you saw this applied.
Sure. I'll give you a speaker one, and it's a prospecting one that again is just kind of obvious, but most people don't know how to do it. And this one kind of leverages the sales intel engine. Or you can actually use LinkedIn or Google. LinkedIn or Google might take you 10 minutes. Sales intel engine will take you 10 seconds. Okay, what's our best form of advertising? Right? Our best form of advertising is someone watching our speech. So if I can get a decision maker into my speech, 50% of the time they'll book me eventually. So how do I do it? Well, let's say I'm speaking in Phoenix. And like you said, you're going to focus on the healthcare industry. Okay. I'm going to go into the sales intel engine. I'm going to click on the people tab. And I'll type in the word meeting. Where it says job title, I'm just going to type in the word meeting. Meaning any person with that job title, any person with the word meeting in their job title is going to show up. And so I'll go in, I'll type in the word meeting, and I'll go in and I'll type in Phoenix. So find me anybody with the word meeting in their job title who live in Phoenix. And I'm doing this right now as we speak. And I pulled up almost 70,000 results. Okay, well, that's quite a few. Under the industry, I'm going to go in, I'm going to type in healthcare. Okay. And now I really narrow it down. And I start to find people who have the word meeting in their job title, or meetings in their job title, or events in their job title, whatever it might be, in the healthcare industry located in Phoenix. So what am I going to do? The cool thing about the sales intel engine is it leverages LinkedIn, it leverages a bunch of other databases, about a dozen others. But the problem with LinkedIn is if you're not paying for the the premium version of LinkedIn, if you're
Upgraded.
not
Yeah.
connected with somebody at the first, second, or third level, you can't send them a message.
Right.
That's not true with the Intel Engine. You can click on their name, open it up, and then connect with them. Hey, I'm going to be down in Phoenix speaking at the National Healthcare Association meeting. I did a little research. I saw that you've got a company conference coming up in 6 months. I'd love to invite you to my keynote in Phoenix because I'm pretty sure that I could be a great prospect for your meeting in 6 months. Worst case scenario, you're gonna learn something. We're gonna develop a great relationship. So, using intelligence tools like the Sales Intel Engine or LinkedIn or even Google, find out who are some of those decision makers in a place where you're going to be speaking and invite those people to your conference because that's your best form of advertising.
Fantastic. So that person that you talked to might have been a meeting coordinator. They might have been anything could have been their job title. I love this idea of saving time and knowing more about them. Okay, so would you be able, let's say we identify Joyce Jones as your person in Phoenix who you'd like them to come out. Can you then find out through the search engine more information about Joyce Jones?
Oh, absolutely. You'd want to click on the company tab and you'd want to learn a little bit about their company, the size of their company, what they do for a living, how many employees they have. There's a news tab. Click on that, type in the company name. Find out if there's something interesting going on.
Okay. Can you find out anything personal about her or do you just go to LinkedIn for that?
Yeah, probably I'd go to LinkedIn, but depending on the person's name. So if it's Julie Jones, in Phoenix, you're gonna you could get what are called false positives. So there's probably 300 Julie Joneses who live in Phoenix. Now, if her name's Julie Bafutnik, you can go into the Intel Engine, type in Julie Bafutnik, and maybe she just recently won an award or something like that.
Okay.
To find something.
Could you put in her name and her company, and then would it work that way? Okay.
Yep.
Very
so
good.
It'll work that way.
Okay.
Do the same thing in Google. Now, when you're using Google, make sure you put the name within quotation marks. So, for example, if I'm looking for Julie Jones, I'd want to make sure that Julie Jones is within quotation marks. If not, I'll pull up every Julie Smith and I'll pull up every Phil Jones.
Okay.
Put something in quotes, it treats it like a single entity.
So these let's just shift gears for a second and give me like 2 or 3 more of those little Google tips that maybe not everybody knows about, putting Julie Jones in quotes. What are some things that are just kind of no-brainers that everybody should be doing?
Well, I'll give you a couple simple ones and a couple more advanced ones that I think speakers will really like. So a simple one is the minus sign. So let's say I go in and I type in Julie Jones, and a bunch of things show up related to banking. Well, I don't want Julie Jones related to banking.
Okay.
I can go back and redo my search, leave the Julie Jones within quotation marks. I'm going to go back and I'm going to attach a minus sign to the word banking. Make sure that the minus sign is touching the letter B, so there's no space. It's minus banking. So Julie Jones within quotes, space, minus banking, minus signs touching the word banking. Google will remove all of the results with the word banking in it.
Okay.
And so you can start out with a broad search term, and you can use up to almost 20 to 30 different minus signs. You can start with a super broad search term, and then using the minus sign, really drill down to the information that you care about.
I like that.
So that's a simple one.
Okay.
A more advanced one. So one of the things that we're always looking for in speaking is lists. Boy, can you find me a list of associations or a list of decision makers? Well, a lot of these lists will be located online as a file type. So a file type would be like a document. So you can go into Google and type in the word file type : So you'd use file type that one word, file type, and then put a colon in those 2 dots. And then the type of document you're looking for. So for example, an Excel spreadsheet would be XLS, or you can use XLSX. So you're saying, Google, I want you to limit your search to only Excel spreadsheets. And then, as I like to say, think like the author. So what words might be inside that Excel spreadsheet that we care about? Might be the word
association list or something like that. Okay.
So I might put in the word association, the word list. Or now if you use the word or in all uppercase, you'll expand your search. So I might put in association or in all uppercase, so association space or in all uppercase space, industry. And then I might even put in list or attendees. So your whole search query in Google might be file type : XLS, association or industry, list or attendee, and see what shows up.
My
You're going to
goodness.
get a lot, so then you could add in other terms like healthcare. You might do healthcare as 2 words, put it in quotes, or healthcare as 1 word. Those kinds of little techniques can really narrow down your searching.
Maybe we'll have you give us a couple of screenshots
Sure.
of what you're putting into the Google search term, and that way we can show people. But what this is making me aware of, I'm just shaking my head thinking, oh my gosh, everybody needs to get this tool. Because I'm never going to remember all that stuff.
Exactly. Within the Sales Intel engine, if they go through that web address that we discussed earlier, samrichter.com/speaker, once they log in, they're going to see a folder in there called speaker resources. I've actually found a lot of cool lists. So association lists and company CEO lists.
Well, that's
so I've already uploaded those in there. So you don't even have to do the search. You can just download them. So for example, there's a list in there. I think it features almost 2,000 different associations. What's cool about it is it shows you who the contact is, who the influencer in the association is, what's the size of their meetings, how many attendees they have, those kinds of things. It's not every association in the planet, but there's a few thousand in there that I think could be really helpful. So anytime I find a list, I'll even, that's helpful to me as a speaker, I'll just throw it in that folder.
Well, I don't know that we could ask for anything more than that. My goodness, you've made it so easy for people. And I think that this is a bit of a no-brainer from my perspective. As soon as we hang up this call, I'm going to be setting up my subscription, and I'll be excited to share this with my clients because, Sam, why not get somebody else to do the work for you?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what the Intel engine is designed to do, is to make it really easy. I mean, as I like to say, the Intel engine itself does a little bit of the work for you. But also, a lot of people I know, speakers, will hire a college kid and just say, hey, here's the things, here's the people I'm meeting with, dive into or go and find this information, give me a little bio on each person I'm meeting with, or, hey, let's go develop association lists or things. Now, there's even a cool tool, if you do master Google Boolean search techniques. So, for example, like the one we talked about earlier, if you look at the results and you say, wow, boy, those are awesome. Here's a little tip that can do the work for you. Go get a free Google Alert account, google.com/alerts. You go in and you say, okay, here's what I'm finding on a Google search on these Excel spreadsheets. These are really valuable. Go into your alerts, paste in the exact same query, and now Google Alerts, anytime Google finds or vacuums up or indexes up a new spreadsheet that fits your criteria, it'll actually send you an email. So in a sense, you can even automate this a little bit and get leads or prospects sent right to your email. It's not going to happen every day, because if you're doing a good search, you're not pulling up tons of results, you're pulling up a few. But my inbox fills up with great leads and great opportunities. Google's doing the work for me.
So talk to us about how that has affected your speaking business. Now, and I really don't want people to forget that when you show up, we call this term, this is kind of from the old days when I used to work in the Speakers Bureau, show up and throw up. People just, show up and they just tell you everything that they, know about themselves, and you're supposed to, but you're coming at this from a way that you really have them in mind. And I just think that that's so intelligent. That's a part of the intelligence here. It's not just having the list. You've got to use it well.
Well, I think, some of the things that I do that are just, again, simple techniques. Let's say I'm calling on the Plastics Association. I'm in the maybe pile. I've gotten through. I've used these techniques. Now I'm in the maybe pile. I've got my opportunity to speak with that person. I'm going to find out who their speaker was last year. Right? I'll go into Google and I'll figure that out. I'll type in. So, for example, I might type in Plastics Association plus 2016 or 2017 plus conference or event or workshop plus keynote speaker or workshop speaker. Find out who spoke last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, hey, I saw that you had David Avrin last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, boy, isn't he amazing? Yeah, he's incredible. I know how David talks about marketing and how to really differentiate yourself. And it's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, what I talk about is not who you know, but how well you know them. So, you're trying to build on something. Hey, you've done your homework. Hey,
Yeah.
let me help you build a year over year, make it kind of a consistent program.
Continuity.
The continuity is
Yeah,
the word I was
exactly.
looking for. Exactly.
Okay.
By the
So
way, you can use that technique as a prospecting tool, right?
brilliant.
So, because if I know that David Avrin spoke there last year,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I know for sure. I know that they pay their speakers.
Yep.
I know that they pay David's fee, and I know they're not going to hire David next year, so they may as well hire me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
And that he likely did a good job. I think
exactly.
the unknown in this whole situation is whether or not the speaker did a great job, and if you mention their name, you're going to get a good feeling or not.
Yeah.
When we have people that we know and love in the industry like David, then it's easy for us to move forward with a lot more intel.
Well, I think what you just said is really important, and I want to be clear on this because we call it sales intel, but often it's Google searching, and oftentimes when people think of intel or searching, they say, "Well, I've got to get the exact information."
Mm.
Hey, we're not research scientists here. We're not taking
Right.
a test for high school. We don't need to be right. The information we find doesn't even need to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to use it to ask a better question.
Okay.
So let's say, using your example,
Mm-hmm.
if David Avrin spoke last year, if Marilyn Sherman spoke last year, if Ryan Estes spoke last year, I know they did an awesome job. I'm not worried about that.
Right.
But let's say it's, Phil Jones. I've never
Mm-hmm.
heard this person before. I have no idea if Phil's any good. I can still use the information to ask a better question.
Right.
So I could say, hey, Jane, I noticed that you had Phil Jones last year. How'd that go?
Yeah, how'd that go? That's a great one. I like that a lot. And you can come at it from both perspectives.
Yeah,
And
and other things too is find industry information. What's going on in their world?
mm-hmm.
Hey Jane, being in the plastics industry, I did a little research here before our call, and I know all this stuff with the with all the tariffs that are being launched by the government.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's really impacting your industry. Your conference this year, is that going to be a big issue? Even if it's not, it showed that you've done your homework.
Right, exactly.
It's not really going to be a good issue, but that's a great question.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Wow, we could really go on for a long time. What are a couple of more things that you think you are doing in your business? And let's get to the results. Okay, so
sure.
You're speaking. Kind of talk about your calendar a little bit. Is it as full as it you would like it to be? How is this all translated for you?
Yeah, it's really it results in increased fees every year because,
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, again, I'm going to back up. You obviously have to be a good speaker. I mean, so that let's assume that everybody on the call already is that. But what it helps me do is get through the maybe pile. It helps me do a way better job with referrals. Again, using the same techniques. I go in and I'll look and I'll see that my good friend Marilyn spoke there last year. My good friend Dave spoke there. David Avrin spoke there. I will call David and say, hey, I see that you spoke at the Widget Corporation last year. I think I'd be a great fit. What do you think? Sam, you'd be amazing. Hey, do you think you could make an introduction?
Sure.
That happens a lot, a ton. I would say I'm going to guess that 70% of my business comes just from that technique right there. I'll find out who spoke there last year, and then I'll ask for an introduction. And if the speaker's not willing to, or they're too busy to pick up the phone or send an email, I'll at least say, hey, Dave, I know how busy you are. Can I at least use your name? Sure, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
My subject line in my email, David Avrin said I had to reach out to you. Something like that.
Very nice. And the reason this works is because David is confident that you're going to do a great job. So
Absolutely.
That goes back to our earlier idea of being good from the platform.
Yeah, you've got to be great from the platform.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah, but in terms of, to directly answer your question, yeah, business is crazy good, and it's fun. I mean, I just love it, and you get to meet a lot of great people, and sometimes you just knock yourself on the head saying, I can't believe that I get to have so much fun and get paid doing it. So this stuff
and
really does work.
and this doesn't surprise me. A lot of speakers are introverts.
Yeah, I
People
know.
think that
Yeah.
everybody's an extrovert, but that's not really true.
No, I think that, as I like to say, it's kind of like I've got my creative brain. I used to be in advertising, and I've got my
Mhm.
logical brain. I can write complex Java code and scripts. So I think I have multiple personality disorder, I think. And probably the same goes for my
Yeah.
introvertedness and my extrovertedness. Another way too, and I'll throw this out. Again, use Google, use whatever techniques works. It certainly makes it easy with the sales intel engine, clicking on the news tab and researching people. But I can tell you, here's a trick that will get you booked lots of times by people in the room. Use intelligence to learn about the industry and even research some of the companies in the room for an award they've won, a big deal that they've done, a big merger that they went through, or some good news, and weave that information into your speech. Customize your speech. And the cool thing is, we all know, as speakers, we all know that there are places in our speech where we can give an example or we can share a story. And it's so much more powerful if that story is somebody in the room.
For
So I could
sure.
say, hey, as I'm talking here about growing an online business and doing webinars, there's somebody in the room here. How many of you know Jane Atkinson? Jane, can you stand up? Do you know that she does X, or she's grown her business 50% just by doing these podcasts and webinars and things? Jane, you are the perfect example of the kind of what I'm talking about today as it relates to using online marketing to grow your business. I just made that up in the top of my head. Do you know how powerful that is?
And I'm sitting in my chair a little taller because you've made me puff up my chest. And
Yep.
and Joe Calloway and I always talk about this, making the audience the hero of your stories.
Absolutely.
It's not always I did it this way, I did it that way, and it's been effective. But when you can pluck the heroes right out of your audience, how powerful is that?
And you want to talk about growing your business? The number of people that will come up to you afterwards and hand you your business card, you'll be shocked at how well that works. Because again, if in prospecting and sales, the concept of people only care about themselves, guess what? The same holds true for an audience member. They care about themselves. They don't want to, if you're talking to the plastics industry, they don't really care about how you've helped leaders in the legal industry grow their business.
Right.
But they really care about is how you've helped people in the plastics industry grow their business, or whatever you're speaking about. Use intelligence to get some statistics. What's going on in their world? How are they growing? What are some trends? In the sales intel engine, as an example, there's a button called Documents. You can go in there, you can type in healthcare, and then one of the buttons is trends, and it'll pull up all the recent trend articles of what's going on in their industry. One of the other buttons is presentations. You can see other people's PowerPoint presentation as it relates to the plastics industry. Not that you're going to steal their stuff, but you might find a statistic in there that you might then go, quote unquote, Google and get the original source. Make it about the other person in all areas of your business, from sales to closing a deal to actually delivering your presentation. Make it about them.
Fantastic. Well, this is truly sales intelligence, and you did not misname this product by any stretch of the imagination. I appreciate your coming on the show today. And let's talk again about, we'll put a lot of this in the show notes, but we're going to put, if you want to go and get your free subscription, samrichter.com/speaker. Go in and set up your subscription. It's $120 for an entire year. And is this the upgraded version, Sam, or is there one beyond this that you can also get?
No, this is it. And so everybody, I want to be clear, everybody gets it for 30 days, no charge, no nothing. And they can go in, like I said, I've kind of preloaded. So the version they're going to get is kind of, I call it the speaker edition, preloaded with a lot of the spreadsheets and the lists and things that I found, and go in and download those lists. And if you don't upgrade, that's fine. You're still going to get a ton of value out of it. If you do, make sure you use the coupon code SPEAKER so you can get 50% off as well.
Coupon code SPEAKER to get 50% off. And we are not sharing this with other people, as that's not cool. We're just going to keep it to ourselves.
Yeah, let's just keep it to to the Atkinson family.
Now, can people who are members of NSA who might hear it from somebody else, can they go into /speaker?
Oh yeah,
get that?
yeah. I mean, let's keep it in. Right, exactly. I mean,
I wanted to make sure I said that.
We're all pals. We're all,
Okay.
Again, the beautiful thing about our businesses is although we're competitors, we're not competitors in the sense of, if I get it this year, you'll get it next year. And if you get it next year, somebody else is going to get it the year after that. Let's just all help each other grow our businesses.
The pie is big enough and continues to grow.
Before at NSA, haven't we?
The industry continues to grow, and there are a lot of, you probably know the statistics. How many meetings are going on every day?
Oh gosh, I don't know, but I'll tell you what freaks me out. I mean, when I using that example earlier, guess how many conferences there are in 2019 in the healthcare industry across the globe?
How many?
Now I'm gonna give you the number. I'm assuming some of the results I pulled up are duplicates.
Okay.
But the number of results I pulled up were 313,000. Now, of course, some of those are going to be small, little, 20-person conferences, but I'm just reading off the top one. Institute for Healthcare Improvement 2019 Summit, Healthcare Conference 2019, Becker Hospital Review, Digital Health Summit 2019. There's so many of them here. Here's a fifth one down, 2019 Summit, Call for Speakers, Forum for Healthcare Strategies. It's unbelievable the amount of conferences that go on. And here, you know how I know it for sure? Because every time I'm at a conference center at a hotel and I'm speaking, there's 1, 2, 10 other events going on where if I'm obviously not speaking there, but somebody from NSA should be.
Right. Well said, sir. I am so excited to be sharing this information with our listeners. And thank you, Sam, for your wealth of knowledge today. It really is fantastic. And with that, we'll say, hey, everybody, make sure that you go onto the show notes at speakerlauncher.com, click on the podcast link, and you will pick those up. Very valuable information shared here today. And with that, we'll say we'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speakers Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.